Welcome back to Dukes Meadow in Woodbridge, where we're doing today a follow-on video. We've had the windows delivered now, and our guys are starting to install them. They're making really good progress. We're going to be able to see some of the progression of the detailing, particularly around airtightness. Dan is going to show you quickly the Ilbrook i3 system that we use to seal the windows. And like last time, there's a lot of interesting details on this project, so really excited to show you it. Last time we were here, we were looking at the opening for this window, and we can see now that it's gone in. Really good fit and nice colour match between the first floor green coat cladding and the windows that the client's chosen. And then we've got all the little punched hole windows going in on the first floor there, with Ross putting the first one in. If we follow through round to the side here, when we were here before, this wasn't anywhere near as finished as it is now, but now it's getting ready for the window installation. We can see the client has had the render finished on the soffit here, so that we can fit the Velfac windows and seal up to the render. The windows here are set back really far. They all line up with these steels, which have now got the fireboard cladding on them. So that we'll have a bespoke aluminium flashing that comes out over here to cover the edge of the brickwork. Then as we move round to the sort of front of this opening, we've got again the door opening where we'll be fitting the Velfac door on the compact foam, which is, you can see that the client has had all the edge of the concrete floor here tidied up and squared off so that we get a really nice flat finish to the inside of the door. So here, looking in from the inside, we can see the size of this huge window and how our team have done all the Ilbrook i3 airtightness system here, which is on the inside here. You can see the airtightness membrane and how we patch around brackets so that we don't have any risk of airtightness failure when the airtightness testing is done later on in the project. In most instances, projects go through stage airtightness testing, so once the windows are fitted and the external facade is complete, they can do a first stage airtightness test to identify any problems. And then as the build progresses, all those sort of areas where there can be problems get sealed up and covered up. So having that initial airtightness test is really important because you've still got access then to correct any problems. This kind of circulation space between the kitchen and the lounge is actually going to be a library. So the client's got provision here for bookshelves. It'll be a really nice little space to come into. Loads of natural light through this huge window, looking out into the garden there. In here, we've got a couple of big Velfac side-hung windows. We can tell that it's a side-hung window because you can see the handle simply on the side here. Opening the window, it's a pretty straightforward operation. There's concealed hinges in the sides here that you don't see from the outside when the window's closed. And these can give you really big levels of ventilation. On a hot sunny day like this, you can get good cross ventilation through the windows in various parts of this room. One of the really nice standard features with Velfac windows is that they come as standard with night vent positions. So this means that we've got two receiver points in the side of the window here. So when we close the window, we can have it either fully closed, so in its sort of airtight, weathertight position, or you can open it about 1 centimetre and close the handle, so you get this background ventilation for sort of summer months, that kind of thing, where you're looking to get some good cross ventilation but a relative secure position of the window. In the Velfac system, you've got these side hung windows and then casement doors. We've got some casement doors yet to install on the other side of the building, but the basic difference between a casement door and a side hung window is the threshold. With a side hung window, you get an actual window frame at the bottom, so it matches on all four sides. It's a consistent detail. Whereas with a casement door, it's the same operation, same handle, same aesthetic from the outside, but on the inside you've got a threshold that means you can get the bottom of the door nice and low to avoid trip hazards, and it's a bit more robust for walking over. Over here on this corner of the building, we've got, there was a steel beam, a steel column in the corner here, which has now been clad in this fire check board so that it's fire rated. The underside of the soffit here has all been rendered. It's really important to get the render done before the windows go in with the Velfac system. Because you can't overlap the face of the window with render or other finishes that would stop the window opening in the Velfac system. Here you can see how the render comes really far back into the opening, because on this window opening the windows are set back about 150-200 millimetres, so they will be sitting sort of in this sort of line here to line up with the corner post. Once we've installed these windows, because of the bespoke nature of this corner, we're going to come back and measure once everything's installed for the sill flashing that's going to run around the corner here, be mitered at the corner, and then finish on the window adjacent. Additionally, we'll have an aluminium pressing that caps this steel so that it all lines round with the face of the windows and gives a really integrated look. So you're going to end up with this really nice contrast between the brick at the bottom running all the way around, the window in the middle running all the way around, and how the render then continues under as well. So over here we can see examples of how the Velfac windows come delivered to site. They all are factory palletised. We can choose how things are palletised. So in most instances we choose to palletise by floor level. So we'll have pallets for the ground floor and pallets for the first floor. This gives us the ability to just load out and focus on one area of the building at a time, keeping the rest of the windows safe on their pallets. They're nice and secure. They come wrapped in an element of weather protection. And all the windows are delivered with these nice plastic end caps, which really help with cutting the risk of damage whilst they're being moved around site. And then cardboard sections on the face profiles on all four sides. So when we place orders on the factory with Velfac, we're quite focused on how we label things, what labels we're requesting, so that when we get a delivery, we've got multiple pallets potentially, and we can see on the stickers exactly where each window's going. So we can see here that we've got W12 ground floor living room south elevation, and then that translates to the sticker on the window. So it makes loading out the windows and identifying which windows for which hole really simple. On a job like this, we've got lots of small windows which are subtly different sizes, just because the nature of building the opening sizes are slightly different. So that's going to really help our guys to identify and quickly get the right window in the right hole. And any sort of differences in specification, for example, just left-handed or right-handed, it really cuts down the risk of mistakes. Owning our smart lift means that we've got a lot more flexibility than most other window installers in terms of when we do and don't use it. We find that sometimes you get to site and you realise actually we've got a real need for it, or it's not going to work in this scenario. And because we own it, we're not under cost pressure to get it off-hired or on-hired as quick as possible. We're not having to worry about it sitting here idle, or equally, if we need it tomorrow at a job unexpectedly, we don't have the cost of on-hire and off-hire, having to have someone on site to receive it or take it away, signing on and off the job. So owning it has been a really positive thing for us, a really big investment that we made a couple of years ago now, and it pays us back week after week. So the smart lift's pneumatically controlled lifting equipment. Being pneumatic means that we don't have any risk of hoses breaking and oil going all over the lovely clean windows. We can also set it up in different ways with different numbers of suckers for different weights, different size of suckers. We can add different attachments to it if we want to for slightly different scenarios. But in most cases, this basic setup of the 4 suckers and this size is adequate for up to about 450 kilo lift, about 3 and 3.5 meters in the air. So going back through the utility room, we can see again how all of the edge of the finished concrete floor has been tidied up, so that when we bring our threshold into here, it's going to fit really nicely and it's going to be a really good quality seal and aesthetically good for the final finish. And then in here we've got again those little punched hole windows, which you can see all starting to take shape now, how unique the design is going to be here. You've got the busiest road of the roads around the site here on this side, so you get these little peeps of what's going on outside without feeling like you're losing any privacy here. Yeah, so one of the requirements that we have to achieve for building regulations nowadays is Building Regs Part Q, which is about security. The Velfac windows generally all achieve Part Q security standards as default, but one thing that we do change is we specify laminated glass on the windows, and you can see here that you've got the telltale here that is definitely laminated glass because you've got the etching on the glass that building control will be looking for. So that's a good way to just double check that it's definitely laminated glass for security as required. Laminated glass is also achieving a level of safety, but in this scenario it doesn't have to be safety glass, it's just about security. Shall we go upstairs? Here we've got some examples of the contraband tape that we use for the external seal between the window and the wall, or the primary seal, you might call it, the first line of defence from weather and water. And you can see that because we use this tape all the time, we stock very different sizes of it. So we've got everything from a really thin tape here, right up to a really thick tape. And the differences here is that each type of tape is designed for a different joint gap. So on the tape we can see this one's printed with 13 to 24, so that's for a joint gap of between 13 and 24 millimetres. And we know that at 24 millimetres this tape is tested to achieve 600 pascals airtightness, which is the same as the windows themselves. So where we're dealing with differing tolerance gaps, we would naturally switch the size of the contraband tape to suit, and having these products in stock means that we can do that with no hassle at all. So the contraband tape, when it comes off the roll, we can see that on one side it's got a self-adhesive side, and when we're fitting the window, we put the window in the hole, and then the contraband tape will fit to the window. Here it's already started to expand, but it will expand then to fill the gap up to its design thickness in this case, which is 15 millimetres. So that will go on all four sides of the window, and then over the course of a few hours it will expand to fill the gap and create this highly weather-tight seal. So over here we've got this example that we saw in the last video on this project of the internal stud wall coming in between the windows. You've got how the deck has been cut back here to accept the window coming up to it, and the windows will fit either side of this stud wall, and then eventually the outside will be clad over with an aluminium pressing. We can go over to the other side of the building and see one already installed. So on this side of the building we've got the two windows already installed in this same scenario, with a big window on one side, smaller window on the other side, two separate rooms divided by this piece of stud work, and externally, when we've finished and clad over the stud work, it's going to look like one cohesive opening with the same sort of material as the windows covering that bit of stud work. And then the sill flashing underneath the window is going to run continuously underneath both openings. This project, like a lot of our projects, doesn't have trickle vents in the windows because the customer has specified an airtight construction with the MVHR system, which is mechanical ventilation with heat recovery. And you can see some of the bits of the MVHR system around the building here. So this is a ductwork, smooth internal ductwork, so it doesn't collect dust and dirt. That will be channeled out to the heat exchanger, which is in the utility room. And you can see one of the really important things with an MVHR system is to keep the system really nicely sealed during construction so that it doesn't fill with dirt and debris, because at the end of the day when you're running this system, that dirt and dust is going to start permeating around the building. With these windows here, you can see they're really tall all the way to the floor, and there's no way of stopping someone falling out of the window. But the architect has specified, which will be fitted in the future, an internal Juliet balcony. With the Velfac system, you've got a really solid glue laminated timber frame, so it's actually quite easy to fit internal Juliet balconies to things. And then you're still going to get the benefit of this big opening window, but with the safety afforded by the balcony itself. We often specify in Velfac windows with particularly large windows is their restrictor with ventilation position. When we close the window, you can see how the restrictor engages. So we can close the window, and then when we open it, the restrictor's engaged. On a bigger, heavier window, this is really handy because you've got the functionality of being able to lift the restrictor up, and that holds the window in the open position so that it won't blow closed. When the windows go in, it's almost like, well, when we're doing replacement jobs, you change from old sort of 30, 40-year-old glass to brand new fresh glass, and all of a sudden it's like you've gone from a regular TV to an HD TV. You're getting so much clarity of vision and definition when you're looking through the glass. It's really impressive. So here you've got a really good view that I hadn't picked up on before when we were here, of this tree with the kids' swings on it, and it just really makes a feature of that tree, the orientation of the house around it.
Okay, so now we're inside the building and we're doing the final part of the Illbrook i3 system for sealing the internal side of the window. The external's already been filled with the TP600 Compraband, which in this weather will expand really quickly and fill in any gaps externally. Internally, we've used the Illbrook FM330 elastic foam to fill the gap between the frame and the inside of the building. And the last part of the i3 system is the Illbrook ME508 Airtight tape. I've cut this little patch just so I can show you an example here. Obviously it will go through the perimeter of the window. The glazing packers have been cut back flush to create a nice square seal. As is any expanding foam that sticks out, we cut that back as well. And then with the tape, simply peel off the back end to create a sticky leading edge. And then we're looking for a nice 4 or 5 mil onto the frame. Give that backing tape a nice squeeze. Sometimes we use a roller, if we can get in with a roller, just to crackle that and get the adhesive to work properly. Then it's a matter of peeling back the backing tape, work that into the gap to create a nice airtight lock there, and the same with the second part. We just peel that off. And again, work it nice and tight and flush to create a perfect seal on the perimeter of the window. And that's the Illbrook i3 system, which we use all the time on this PassivHaus buildings. Perfect.
Over here we've got a good example of different stages of the airtightness installation. We've got a little window here where the full airtightness tape has been done. So this is our internal airtightness membrane. We use an Illbrook product for this as part of the i3 sealant system. And then the window next to it here has just got the airtightness tape at the bottom. On the sides you can see what's behind the airtightness tape, which is the Illbrook foam. The foam itself achieves a 0.6 U value, so better than the window. And those elements combined with the Compraband seal on the outside make up the i3 sealant system of Compraband foam and internal airtightness membrane. Here we've got an example of the Velfac sill flashing system, which is a welded end cap sill, and it has little indentations here which fit into a clip on the bottom of the window. There's a little aluminium extrusion there, so eventually when we're ready to fit this sill just pushes into the clip there. We can put some silicone on it to hold it in place permanently. But it's a really simple system that allows us to put the sills on after the windows have been fitted. That often gives us a bit of flexibility in what the setback of the window is, because we can hold off ordering the sills until the windows have been installed if the detail's particularly complex. Over here we can see the outside of the window we were looking at earlier with the really big full height side hung window. You can see how the customer has really helpfully filled all the frogs on the bricks here to give us really good opportunities to seal and support the window off the brickwork, and how the green coat cladding is finished at the top there so that we again can get a good quality seal from the window to the finish. So if I open the window, you can really clearly see the external seal here between the wood part of the frame and the brickwork, and where it sits in the Velfac system. So the external aluminium sash is in front of this seal, which gives us this shadow gap detail between the wall and the opening sash, which we'll see if I close the window again. This window here, which is the library window, has got this really interesting detail with how the brickwork's been returned here, which we really like, the thought that's gone into this by the architects and clients. Thanks for spending the time to watch the video today. We've had a really good look around the site and seen how things are progressing really nicely with the window installation. Everything's working as we planned so far, and we've been able to see a few of the nice details on this project that are quite unique here. Hopefully next time we'll show you a different project, and in the future we'll come back to this project when it's completed. So leave a comment if there's something that you want us to focus on in a future video, or just let us know if this is the sort of house you'd like to live in.